Someone tried to cancel a pharaoh. At Deir el-Bahari, you can still see the attack on Hatshepsut. Her images chiseled out, yet her voice leaks through. In the shadow of those terraces, the story still whispers. A divine anointing carved in registers, a voyage to Punt, an argument for legitimacy staged in a temple that looks like it was born naturally out of the cliffside. If you know where to look, the edits themselves become evidence of who needed her gone and why. Nearby, another voice booms loudly. Ramses the Great, the master of self-promotion, thundering his version of the Battle of Kadesh, and his greatness into every ear that will listen. We'll walk beneath the massive stonework of the Ramesseum and see what Egypt's most famous king refused to be quiet about. Today, we meet Hatshepsut and Ramses through the buildings they left us. On our two Egyptian sailing vessels, the Hadil and the Veda, I and my cohort of intrepid explorers made our way down the Nile, northward, to the great capital of Egypt during its empire period. In ancient times, this city was called Waset. The Greeks later dubbed it Thebes. Today, we know it as Luxor, rising from a provincial town to national center in the Middle Kingdom, and reaching its zenith in the New Kingdom. The city of Waset was the center of the cult of Amun during that New Kingdom, with religion tied very closely to royal authority and state policy. From this partnership flowed armies, taxation, building programs, and a priestly economy that fed thousands, and projected Egypt's will into Nubia to the south and to the Levant to the northeast. On the east bank, kings established their power in the present. On the west, they invested in the afterlife, creating estates and institutions to keep their names effective forever. To understand Egypt at its most ambitious, politically, militarily, artistically, you need to go to Luxor and see it for yourself. But I will help you do that. Over the next episodes, we'll explore both sides of the river, and today, two amazing stone structures on the West Bank. Deir el-Bahari represents one of the most significant archaeological complexes in ancient Egypt, functioning as a sacred landscape and royal necropolis for over 2 millennia, spanning from the Middle Kingdom through the late Ptolemaic period. The modern Arabic name, Deir el-Bahari, translates literally as the Northern Monastery or the Seaward Monastery, a designation that reflects the site's transformation during the Coptic Christian period, when the temple structures were repurposed for monastic habitation. The site occupies a distinctive natural bay formed by sheer cliff faces at the foot of the mountain, known as el-Qurn, whose peak perhaps suggested the primeval mound upon which creation itself was believed to have taken place. Long before any temple construction occurred at this specific location, the area held sacred associations with the goddess Hathor, who was traditionally venerated as the protector and guardian of the city's royalty. This remarkable site encompasses 3 major mortuary temples, numerous royal and non-royal tombs, and has yielded extraordinary artifacts that illuminate the achievements of ancient Egyptian civilization. But the complex is most celebrated for the mortuary temple of Queen Hatshepsut, one of Egypt's few female pharaohs, who ruled during the New Kingdom's 18th dynasty. Here we are at Hatshepsut's temple, her mortuary temple. Her tomb is on the other side of the mountain. In the New Kingdom, it became the custom to separate the mortuary temples from the tombs because, well, you didn't want anyone to know where you were interred, but you did want them to come to your mortuary temple and give you offerings. And it was put right next to a temple of Mentuhotep II, the founder of the Middle Kingdom, over here, which actually was dismantled and helped to be made part of Hatshepsut's temple. But the same spot was chosen. And this is an amazing temple. Hatshepsut's officials are all over here. Their tombs are all along the mountain. But we're going to go inside and see some amazing things. So come on. Nebhetep-Re Mentuhotep, who reigned in the 21st century BCE, selected Deir el-Bahari as the location for his funerary temple complex. His temple marked a dramatic innovation in royal funerary architecture that would profoundly influence all subsequent royal temple construction. It integrated a royal tomb into a terraced temple platform in a manner never before attempted on such a scale, combining southern architectural traditions with northern pyramid complex conventions, creating an entirely original architectural synthesis. Mentuhotep's temple was the earliest known mortuary temple where the pharaoh was depicted not merely as a passive recipient of offerings from the gods and priests, but rather as an active agent enacting sacred ceremonies for the deities, particularly for Amun-Ra. Furthermore, the decoration and royal statuary of Mentuhotep's temple extensively emphasized the king's identification with Osiris, the god of fertility, resurrection, and the afterlife, through repeated depictions of the pharaoh wearing Osirian regalia. This Osirian theology would become standard in Egyptian royal mortuary practice thereafter. Approximately 550 years later, during the 18th dynasty of the New Kingdom, Egypt witnessed the rise of one of its most remarkable rulers, Queen Hatshepsut. She initially assumed power as regent following the death of her husband, Thutmose II, ostensibly to govern on behalf of her young stepson, Thutmose III. But she ultimately promoted herself to the role of pharaoh and maintained authority for approximately 22 years. The temple Hatshepsut commissioned, known as Djeser Djeseru, or the Holy of Holies, was designed by her chief architect and high steward, Senenmut, who held extraordinary influence at the royal court, and whose architectural vision transformed the site into a monument of unsurpassed elegance and sophistication. Which one is Senenmut? That nicer one?
That one over
okay.
there. And right over here is the cave where the naughty pitcher is.
Oh, okay.
We can't go in.
Note the temple's distinctive form, with its 3 massive colonnaded terraces connected by gently sloping central ramps. The lower terrace of Hatshepsut's temple was originally enclosed by a wall with a central entrance gate. This terrace included a garden area where exotic vegetation from Hatshepsut's famous trading expedition to Punt would have been cultivated, with evidence suggesting that persea trees, sycamore, and tamarisk species were planted here. The holes where these trees once stood remain visible in the archaeological record. The porticos of the lower terrace contain 22 columns with reliefs on them. The southern portico's reliefs document the transportation of 2 enormous obelisks from the Aswan quarries, showing them being loaded onto river vessels and transported downstream to the Temple of Karnak. The middle terrace of Hatshepsut's temple contains the most celebrated and artistically sophisticated reliefs in the entire complex. The northwest portico of the middle terrace contains the birth colonnade, an iconographic ensemble depicting the story of Hatshepsut's divine conception and birth, establishing her legitimacy to rule not through mere dynastic succession, but through direct descent from the god Amun himself. This theological assertion was crucial to Hatshepsut's position as a woman claiming pharaonic authority in a culture where Masculine kingship was the predominant model.
These are examples of Hatshepsut being erased from history. Over here, she was originally being depicted right here, making offerings before Amun. So you can see Amun very well, and you can see all the offerings very well, but no more Hatshepsut. This is on the eastern side, which is associated with the sunrise. That's why you see Amun, god associated with the sun. Whereas over on this side, you have Anubis. He's associated with the west, the lands of the dead. All right, and he's receiving offerings here from her as well. But again, her image is completely destroyed. Interestingly, NEXT pointed this out. You have a cow being depicted here and a cow being depicted over there. A lot of the same offerings, but the underbelly of the cow over there and the back of the cow over here, symbolizing, I guess, the beginnings, potential, and endings over here. Right here, this is one of the best parts of the temple. We're looking at the reliefs from Hatshepsut's famous expedition to Punt. Come on, take a look. So right here, we have the whole story all along the wall here about how she sent Captain Nehesi with these huge barges to the land of Punt. Now, not all of it's preserved, but we have a lot of it. You can even see the representations here of what it looked like in Punt. They have these huts up on stilts. You can see some of the foliage. They're animals, all right? It's representing the land and what they found there. You can see up there some of the trees that they brought to put on the barge to bring back to Egypt. Here you can see Nehesi himself with his men, his soldiers behind him. And then right over here, in adoration pose right here, is the king of Punt. But right above also, you can see him again standing there, and his wife, the queen of Punt, next to him. And everyone always remarks, it's a little faded there, but everyone always remarks how she is portrayed as being extremely heavy set, right? When, in Egyptian art, everybody is thin. You ever notice that? Everybody's thin. They're all like idealized, even if they weren't necessarily. But she is portrayed as being very large in this relief. Don't know what the artist's purpose is in doing that. Is he trying to represent her realistically? Is he trying to make a comment about the Puntians? I don't know, but that's a famous image there of the king and queen of Punt. And of course, the hieroglyphs next to the king and queen of Punt are talking about, how awesome Egypt is and how they bow before the king of Egypt. Hatshepsut's calling herself the king. Did they really say this? Maybe diplomatically, I suppose. And then here you can see the boats. You can see the ships, the barges, and them bringing animals aboard. You can even see some monkeys there, baboons, I should probably say. Here you can see the rowers.
Positioned at the southern end of the middle terrace is a portico leading to a chapel dedicated to the goddess Hathor.
Look at this. The archaeologists are working in here doing some restoration. It's a Polish team.
The walls carry more images from the Punt expedition. The upper terrace is the final and most sacred level of Hatshepsut's temple. The most visually striking elements of the upper terrace are the colossal Osiride statues positioned against the pillars of the western portico, depicting Hatshepsut in her identity as Osiris. There were originally 24 of them.
A lot of people come from all over the world every year to see it rise just up above the lintel, the architrave, the lintel of the entrance. That alignment comes all, fewer people know this, very few people know this, that the alignment comes all the way across and hits this temple. Fewer people will come here. I've been here. It's absolutely phenomenal to witness. You see the sun rest right above the center. There's an aperture up above. It beams through, and it would have illuminated the statue with it.
At the very back is the most holy part of the temple, the sanctuary of Amun. Access to the sanctuary required walking through a deep passage cut directly into the cliff face, creating an underground approach that symbolized the descent into the otherworldly realm where Amun held ultimate sway. Here the pharaoh's cult priests would have conducted the most sacred ceremonies, performed in darkness or near darkness, away from public view. Near the end of Thutmose III's reign, he commissioned the construction of the third mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari, known as Djeser Akhet, or Holy of the Horizon, which was positioned on an elevated platform immediately north of Mentuhotep's complex, squeezed between the two earlier temples. The temple remained visible and in use for only about 250 years before an earthquake struck at the beginning of the 21st dynasty, approximately 1070 BCE. Causing massive rockfalls from the overhanging cliffs and burying the temple beneath substantial deposits of debris.
This amazing place, you might think, well, what happened to it after Thutmose III took over? Didn't he destroy all of Hatshepsut's remains and so forth? He actually built a little temple over there for himself, and this would continue to be used off and on all the way up into the Greco-Roman period, so they didn't completely do away with it. And there's some talk lately about how maybe it wasn't Thutmose III who destroyed all of Hatshepsut's images, but the Amun priesthood, that they had more of a problem with her than he did. It's uncertain, but they were certainly a powerful force in the New Kingdom, the priests.
The Ptolemaic period brought further transformations to the site's sacred landscape, as various Hellenistic religious cults appropriated portions of Hatshepsut's temple for the veneration of deified figures such as Imhotep and Amenhotep, son of Hapu, known for their wisdom and healing powers. Another amazing find from Deir el-Bahari was a cache of royal mummies. During the 21st dynasty, royal tomb robberies were getting out of hand, and priests began relocating mummies of kings and their families in order to preserve them from desecration. Well, they put a stash of these mummies here, and archaeologists found them. In this royal cache were the mummies of over 50 individuals, including the pharaohs Ahmose I, Thutmose I, Thutmose II, Thutmose III, Seti I, Ramses II, and Ramses III, plus queens, princes, and the high priest Penegem II. Later in the episode, I'll show you one of them up close and personal. But now, we are off to the Ramesseum. The Ramesseum is one of ancient Egypt's most significant mortuary temples. It is the second largest temple in Egypt. Though partially ruined after 3 millennia of environmental degradation and human intervention, the Ramesseum remains an invaluable archaeological site that illuminates many aspects of Ramses' reign, as well as ancient Egyptian religious practice and administration. New Kingdom mortuary temples served primarily as places of worship dedicated to the living pharaoh, understood as a god incarnate on earth, ensuring that his memory and cult would be perpetuated after his death. The temple functioned as a nexus between the terrestrial and divine realms, a space where priests performed daily rituals to maintain the king's eternal existence, and to celebrate his achievements and divine nature.
We are here at a monument built by none other than, yep, you guessed it again, Ramses the Great, Ramses II. This is kind of a new phenomenon type of temple. It's a New Kingdom sort of temple known as a mansion of millions of years. Several of the pharaohs did this. It became customary, sort of a memorial temple, but it was also built near the Nile floodplain on purpose, but still away from it enough that it doesn't get destroyed. The Ramesseum, for a long time, was known as the tomb of Ozymandias. Maybe you've heard of this before. And it got that name because of Diodorus Siculus and some other ancient Greek writers. You see, the ancient Greeks didn't always get things right. And Diodorus Siculus, who was a historian who visited Egypt, but I don't think he ever actually came to the Ramesseum, but he wrote about this place, described it wrongly, but also called it the tomb of Ozymandias. And so it has been called that ever since. He seems to have got it from an earlier guy named Hecataeus of Abdera, but he didn't have it all right. And for all through these years, it was known as the tomb of Ozymandias. Even the great Belzoni came here and referred to it as such. It wasn't until hieroglyphs were deciphered by Jean-Francois Champollion, and he came here and read Ramses' name on it, that we realized it actually belonged to Ramses. And he is the one that came up with the name Ramesseum and became Ramesseum in English, and we've been calling that Ramesseum ever since.
The Ramesseum's full ancient name was the House of Millions of Years of Userma'atra Setapenra, Ramses' throne name, that unites with Waset the city in the domain of Amun. The term House of Millions of Years reflects the Egyptian belief in eternal renewal. Construction began shortly after Ramses' accession to the throne and continued for approximately 20 years. This extended construction timeline reflects the mammoth scale of the undertaking, involving quarrying and transporting hundreds of massive stone blocks across considerable distances, organizing labor forces, coordinating multiple workshops and artisanal activities, and executing sophisticated architectural planning. Visitors arriving at the Ramesseum today encounter a landscape marked by scattered ruins, fragmentary columns, broken foundations, and pieces of statuary spread across a broad expanse of desert terrain. Even amid the ruins, evidence of the temple's original magnificence remains discernible to the informed and imaginative observer. The journey from the entrance to the inner sanctum traces a processional path that replicates the ancient ritual movement through sacred space, allowing contemporary visitors to recreate the experiences of ancient priests and participating worshippers, following a processional plan oriented northwest and southeast that facilitated ritual movement and hierarchical progression from public to increasingly restricted sacred spaces. The temple's layout comprises two massive stone pylons, gateways, positioned one after the other with an intervening courtyard. To the south of the first courtyard stood the temple palace, a substantial palatial structure comprising multiple rooms and halls, which functioned as the pharaoh's official residence during his ceremonial visits to the temple. The entire complex was surrounded by mud brick walls to demarcate the sacred precinct. The first pylon remains the most prominently visible architectural feature at the site, though its eastern facade is heavily damaged. Despite its compromised state, this gateway still conveys the monumental scale intended by its designers.
All of the sandstone that you see here, this is made out of sandstone. Can you guess where it came from? You were there, okay? At Jebel el-Sisila, all right? We saw the sandstone quarry. It came from there, it was brought here. It's kind of cool to see how it was brought here to be constructed. But this is an image featuring the famous Battle of Kadesh I told you about before, that Ramses fought against Mu'attali of the Hittites. And you can see elements of the battle here. This is only one of several places that Ramses depicted the battle. But you can see, well, he's very big over here, but this is the battle scene. You can see the chariot up here, several of them. You can see the troops lined up with their shields and spears all along the bottom here, right? But up above is where the major action is taking place. This is all part of that famous battle that he claimed victory for.
Most intriguingly, one block atop the first pylon records Ramses pillaging, in the 8th year of his reign, a city in the Levant called Shalem, which may or may not represent Jerusalem. There's not much of the first courtyard, but there you can see the second pylon. The platform and base fragments of the statue of Queen Tuya, Ramses II's mother, occupy space to the south. See that bottom portion of a statue there on the left? Its top, which had been broken off, is at the British Museum. It's called the Younger Memnon, and it was taken from here by Giovanni Belzoni in the 1800s. Napoleon's men had tried to take it earlier, but had failed. It had a twin statue on the other side, and only its top is remaining. Here it is on the ground. Originally, 8 Osiride pillars stood on each side of the second courtyard, visually representing the king's divine transformation and eternal existence after death.
When building this temple, Ramses was actually showing some respect to his father Seti, because Seti had planned out a smaller temple here that never got finished. And Ramses stuck to his father's plan. Now, he did add to it, but he did respect the original architectural plan of Seti. You can see Ramses here in the form of Osiris in 4 huge statues here, but the one that really catches our eye is this one that has toppled over. But if you look closely, you can see that it was made out of Aswan pink granite. The whole statue, when it was standing up, and you can see the feet over there, was 17 meters tall. And this is estimated to have weighed 1,000 tons. Can you imagine? This is only weighing slightly less than the unfinished obelisk we saw the other day, but it's right up there. Can you imagine the work it would have taken to move this statue and set it up into place? But they did it. Look, right underneath here, we didn't even notice, but these are hieroglyphs that they carved onto the back of the statue. And they're holding it up with this hydraulic lift so it doesn't fall.
The colossal statue had a companion on the other side, somewhat smaller, which depicted Ramses' mother Tuya. The second courtyard demonstrates more pronounced religious character than the first, as evidenced by the artistic depictions on its walls.
Let me just point out the 3 most important gods of Thebes here. You can see Ramses kneeling before them. You've got Amun, you've got his consort Mut, and their son Khonsu. All 3 of them are important in this city, and we'll see them again at Karnak. So on the other side back, you got Thoth in the middle, and on the left, you've got the king, and on one side, you've got Amun-Ra on the left, and Ra-Harakti on the right.
The eastern wall preserves more depictions of the Battle of Kadesh.
Oh, look at this one. Ramses in his chariot. There's a body underneath his chariot wheel. Look at this guy here. I guess he's going over the wheel or something. Yeah, I guess these guys are going around the wheels as he runs over them. So many, hundreds of men, so he's obviously exaggerating his deeds, but this is what he wants the people to remember about him.
The Ramesseum contains a significant, though minor, king list on the upper register of the second western pylon. The list displays a procession honoring ancestors of Ramses during ceremonies of the festival of Min, a deity associated with fertility and male virility. The scene comprises 19 cartouches with the names of 14 pharaohs, a smaller roster than Ramses' more comprehensive king list at Abydos. Notably, the Ramesseum king list omits Hatshepsut and the Amarna pharaohs. Beyond the second courtyard, at the complex's center, stood a covered 48-column hypostyle hall surrounding the inner sanctuary. The great hypostyle hall represents the temple's architectural centerpiece, an enormous covered space created through the deployment of 48 columns arranged in 6 rows. 39 of these 48 columns still stand today. The columns were decorated with customary scenes depicting the king before various deities.
So here again you can see the sacred triad of Waset. Here's Ramses being blessed by Amun, of course the most important of the gods, his consort Mut, and then their son Khonsu over here.
Among the most significant discoveries here was the Ramesseum papyri, a group of Middle Kingdom documents recovered from a shaft tomb discovered beneath the hypostyle hall. With them was a bundle of scribal pens contained in a chest. The papyri were apparently the possessions of someone of the status of a lector priest. Adjacent to the north of the hypostyle hall stood a smaller temple dedicated to Ramses' mother Tuya and his beloved chief wife Nefertari. The sanctuary itself was composed of 3 consecutive rooms, wherein the most sacred rituals transpired in darkness and relative privacy. Part of the first sanctuary room survives, a few remains of the second sanctuary room, and minimal traces of the third chamber.
This is interesting, something I didn't expect to find here actually. See this bark here, this boat? And it has an image on the very front. Yeah, that's Ahmose Nefertari. That is the wife of Ahmose I. We talked about him already. Why would Ramses want to put her up here and honor her? This is a divinized version of her. It's because she was the very first God's wife of Amun. See, Ahmose I started this new tradition of giving the queen a special priestly position called God's wife of Amun. It gave her great power and a whole staff of priests and temple and all of that. So she became very powerful. This was a New Kingdom thing. And it will be done by all the New Kingdom pharaohs after that, including Ramses himself. So he's honoring here the very first God's wife of Amun. You can see that the sacred bark is being carried by priests along in a procession. And there's another one up here in front of them. And this is part of a sacred procession that would occur at special occasions. And so these barks didn't just exist on the art on the wall, but they were real. They had these boats that they carried. Each of the barks, the boats, have images of different important people.
One of the Ramesseum's most distinctive architectural features comprises its vast network of storage facilities. The Ramesseum storage facilities preserve some of the oldest surviving barrel vault arches still standing in Egypt. The most significant recent archaeological discovery at the Ramesseum is the House of Life, an ancient Egyptian educational institution where scribal training and bureaucratic preparation occurred. This represents the first archaeological discovery of direct physical evidence for such an institution, as previous knowledge of Egyptian education derived primarily from textual references. This shows that the temple was a center for training young men, particularly children of aristocrats and government officials, in practical skills necessary for state service.
This temple was not only important religiously, but also important economically. What you're looking at here are all of the magazines, the storehouses, all kinds of grain was kept here and resources and goods of various kinds. Everything was stored here, showing how rich, of course, the temple was and the priesthood was here. But they had land that they were in charge of and distribution of food. This was economically an important center. They even had, within the grounds here, craft workshops over here. This was like, a little city that sustained itself.
We asked an archaeologist on site about the scratch marks that we've been seeing, and he said they're just from people defacing the temples.
They spent 900 years.
But why do they do it?
Why the lines here? What were they doing?
Just playing.
Playing?
Yes.
Wrecking
No.
it.
Yes.
So these lines, I'm talking about these
It's
lines.
without meaning.
Without meaning.
No, exactly without meaning.
There's no meaning.
Yes, of course.
And what were they playing? What were they playing with?
Because some
What do
people
you
say,
think
oh,
were
they're
using? Hold on, what were they
sharpening
using?
blades.
No.
Or some people say, taking a bit of the temple.
That's Roman Greek. They tied.
ايوه كانوا بياخدوا بيها من الحجاره دي
Everybody says
ياخدوها
something
معاهم.
different.
Yeah, everybody has his own perspective.
Yeah, that's 3 interpretations I've heard so far.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, well, anyway.
He's saying that it was just them defacing things. Yeah.
And that's for the jar. They prepare that.
Oh.
The jar
To set down a jar.
to set up the jar.
To set down a jar.
There's one last place I want to take you. I want to show you some fantastic stone sculptures of the pharaohs, as well as a royal mummy that was found in the cache at Deir el-Bahari. To do that, we need to go to the Luxor Museum.
Here he is. It's Ahmose, the mummy of Ahmose. This is the actual guy I was telling you about, the founder of the New Kingdom, the beginning of the Egyptian Empire. He is the one that successfully kicked out the Hyksos and reunified Egypt and made this city the capital. It's amazing to even be able to look at him here. These are called the Golden Flies. It's a Medal of Valor, and this was awarded to Ahmose's Yes, you guessed it, his mom, okay? She actually, down in the south, there were rebels that she had to, a rebellion she had to put down, and she did it. She led the troops into battle. I don't know if she fought herself, but she actually handled it on his behalf. And for that reason, she got the Medal of Valor here.
Also on display is the mummy of Ramses I, founder of the 19th dynasty and grandfather of Ramses the Great. Both of these mummies were found in the cache at Deir el-Bahari that I told you about.
Mentuhotep III as Osiris, sandstone statue. This is Thutmose III from Deir el-Bahari. A piece of limestone, still with the paint on it here, was once part of a temple wall. And he's wearing the Atef crown, usually associated with Osiris. So this statue of Thutmose III, made from greywack, is just like exquisitely carved, but it may remind you of other statues made out of the same stone. For example, the wonderful stone representations of Menkaura from the Old Kingdom and his wife. But this, I think, is done even better than those. Look at this absolutely exquisite statue of Thutmose III. It's granodiorite. This is really hard stone, beautifully made, beautifully polished. This statue was broken. It was found at Deir el-Bahari at his temple, which is completely destroyed. And someone in recent times put it back together. It's got gold inlay. Look at how smooth it is. You can see below his feet the 9 bows and his feet over it. The 9 bows was a territory off to the east that he's basically saying he conquered. We're talking about in the land of Canaan, and this is a representation of his authority over it. And look at the beautifully carved hieroglyphs here with his name. This is one of the best statues of Thutmose.
The temples I showed you today were amazing, but they're nothing compared to what is coming. In our next episode, we will be showing you the crown jewels of Luxor, so to speak, the greatest temples the city ever built, Karnak and Luxor. These will knock your proverbial socks right off, so stay tuned.